Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to walk you through step by step how to create this face and hand portrait manipulation with Photoshop, and we are starting right now. We're going to start by creating a Canva. In this case, I'm going to be using 1920 by 1080 pixels. And once you select the size of your Canva, you want to go ahead and hit on create. We're going to be on this Canva that we just created. Firstly, I want to go ahead and start with the background. In that case, I can come over to the adjustment layer and come over to where it says gradient. You're going to have this gradient editor. What you need to do is to hit on where it says gradient here, where you can choose your gradient color, and you want to come back to basics, open the bracket and make sure you select first one. And once you've done that, you want to come ahead and change the foreground color by hitting on this dot right here. In this case, we are going to be using orange color, this nature, and I want to go ahead and hit OK. Hit on OK here as well to close the gradient editor. And once you're here, we want to change the style from linear to radial. Once you have it like this, you want to go ahead and make a reverse, something of this nature, and you want to go ahead and remove some of the orange color, just like this. Something of this is okay, and I want to go ahead and hit on OK to close the gradient editor. What we need to do at this point is to bring in the hand with fist. And in this case, it's going to be this photo right here. I'll go ahead and make the good sign. What I need to do is to select the quick selection tool, and I want to select the subject. Once it's been selected, you want to come back to layer mask and mask it out just like this. We're going to have the hand like this. What we can do is to come back to the properties of this hand. I want this hand to have sharp edges. In that case, I'm going to be increasing the contrast to something of this nature. We have it like this. You want to go ahead and hit on OK. Now, this hand with face, I want to go ahead and convert it to smart object just like this, and come over to filter, come over to camera raw, and the only thing I need to do here is just to come over to the details. I want to increase the sharpness to something of this nature and hit on OK. Once we have our hand with face like this, the next thing we can potentially do is to go ahead and bring in the main subject of our design. In this case, it's going to be this guy here. I'll just hit on the good sign, select the quick selection tool and make a selection of our subject. Wait a little bit for Photoshop to do their work, and once it's been selected like this, I want to come out to the layer mask and mask it out as well. Just as we did before, I want to go ahead and right click, come over to smart object, convert this girl to smart object. Firstly, I can make the hand with face to be above the girl, and we're going to change it to girl, but right now let's make the hand to be in front. And select my move tool. I want to rotate this hand in a way that it's going to look good. There's no rules to this, just follow your guidance. And what I can potentially do to be seeing the outline of this girl, I want to go ahead and decrease the opacity of this face to something of this nature, and again rotate the hand in the way it will fit the face to something of this nature. We can always make adjustment later on in the video, and right now it's okay like this. I want to go ahead and hit the good sign, and as well increase the opacity to be 100%. At this point, we can go ahead and make the layer of this girl to be above the face again. And right now, this smiley girl, we want to go ahead and add a layer mask. And once you have your layer mask like this, make sure you select the layer mask, hit on B from your keyboard to add the brush tool. In this case, I'm going to be using the hard round brush. And once you select it like this, you can go ahead and reduce the size a little bit and make sure the foreground color is black. I want to erase this part right here, and as well erase this part to this point. And what I can potentially do as well, I want to come over to the layer of this fish and go over to layer mask. I want to add the layer mask, make sure the mask is being selected and the foreground color is as well black. This time around, I want to remove this part and remove this part as well to this point. And now I want to change my brush to soft round brush and decrease the size a little bit. Ctrl+0 to have the full screen. And right now, I want to select the gear layer and as well select the layer mask. In this case, I'm going to be blending it to this fish just like this, something of this nature. Decrease the size of my brush and remove this part. There is no rules in doing this, just follow your guidance. Something of this nature, I want to remove this part as well. Decrease the size of my brush. I want to remove this part right here just like this. I can hit on 0 to increase the size of my Canva. Hold it down the space bar, I can move it around just like this. Hit on B again to have my brush tool and increase the size to this point. I want to erase this part right here, erase this part. Okay, now Ctrl+1, zoom out, and I want to increase the size of my brush, still increase the size. And right now I can go ahead and decrease the flow to be like 50% or 49, and as well remove this part just like this part as well, this part, ear part. Well, I can still go ahead and decrease opacity to be like 60 something. Well, just just blend these parts. Now what we can potentially do is to select this first layer, okay, and come back to the layer mask as well. Make sure the foreground color is still black. Hit on B from your keyboard, and I can still increase the opacity at this point and remove this part right here just like this. Ctrl+0 to have big screen, and I want to remove this part as well. These parts. And what I can potentially do is to hit on Z and increase the size of canvas to this point. Hold it down the space bar to around, like hit on B to have the brush tool. This time around I want to go again and select the hard round brush. Decrease the size, increase the size to something of this nature. I want to make sharp edges here. I just want this part to be very sharp. Select the girl layer, see the layer mask, and press on B again to remove this part as well. So you have it like this. Ctrl+1 to zoom out. We're going to come up with something like this, and you can see the color is off, and in that case still selecting the layer of this girl. I want to come back to adjustment layer and come back to color balance. Once you select color balance, make sure you clip it to the layer in question. In this case it's going to be this girl. Once you clip it, make sure the tone is mid-tone, and I want to add some red because there are too much green and blue. I want to add some red to color match the face with the hand to something of this nature, just like this. Okay, at this point we have the color perfectly matched together. And now what we can possibly do is to hold down the shift key, select the first layer and the last layer. In this case it's going to be the hand, and once you hit on the layer you're going to have the 3 layers selected like this. What you can possibly do is to right click and come over to merge layer. Now it's going to be in a single form, and hit on the move tool. I want to increase the size of this design. In this case it's already meshed together, and just increase the size to something of this nature and hit on enter. And right now what we can potentially do is to go ahead and create a new layer. Make the layer to be above scale, and once you have the layer like this, hit on B to have the brush tool, increase the size to something of this nature, right click to select soft round brush, and now make sure the opacity is 100% and the flow as well is 100%, and just click once like this. Select your move tool by hitting on V, and you want to squash this down to something of this nature like this. What you can potentially do is to stretch the shadow a little bit to this point and to this side as well. Take it down to this point. You can still stretch it out. Okay, to something like this. And now let's go over to filter and come over to blue, and we're going to be selecting geisha blue. In this case we can increase it to this point, hit on OK. Selecting the same layer, we want to decrease the opacity to be something of this nature, to be like 58%, and hit on OK. We're going to have it like this. You can always move this shadow around, and once we have everything like this, the next thing we can potentially do is to hold down the shift key, press on Ctrl and Alt or Option if you are on Mac, and then press on letter E. Now we have all our design on a single layer. What you can potentially do is to right click and come back to smart object. Once you come back to smart object, you want to come back to filter. Once you're here, you want to come back to camera or filter. Once you have this window, toggle here to have before and the after. I want to add some contrast to our design of this nature, and highlight, I can increase the highlight a little bit. The shadow, I want to make it negative to of this nature. I don't need the white, and as well make the black to be negative as well to of this nature. Come over to the effects. This is very important. The texture, add the texture to something of this nature, and the clarity as well, increase the clarity to something of this nature. Once we have it like this, we are not going to need any vignette for this design. And now come back to the color mixer. On the color mixer, I want to make this tongue to be little red and the lips as well. I'm going to select red in this case, make the hue to be negative, and increase the saturation to something of this nature. Okay, and the luminance, you can increase the luminance, but I don't need the luminance in this case. This is the before and this is the after. There's big difference between the two, and I will just go ahead and hit on OK. We're going to apply it to our design. Ctrl+0. For this video, this is what we created. On my own, this was the second design that I make, and this right here was actually the first one that I created for myself, and I recreated this one again. There are little difference between the three designs, but you can just go ahead and make your own the way you like it. If you learned something from this video, you can go ahead and give me a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel, so that whenever I upload another video, you will always be the first person to be notified. And having said this, I'm going to see you in the next video. Cheers, peace out.